everyone, I'm Sarah, and it's really fun to join you today. We have a really great conversation that we want to share with you, and I want to introduce someone to you today for this podcast. And we have our connections down in Kenya. We're starting a new center in Kenya, and I want to introduce Aruna Varsani. I have her here, and Aruna, maybe you could say something about yourself and what your center is and why you have connected with Waterpark.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aruna Varsani. I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya. So this is in the East Africa zone. I run a Montessori school, which is almost about 21 years old. Yeah, and this is the passion which I really prize myself and say I want to give it to the other community who are in a need also. So that's where my heart sits, and I say I love Montessori concept, and that's where I decided to join Waterpark Montessori in Norway with Sarah and Sarah's team. Yeah.
So you've been running your school now for 21 years, and you've also had a training center for other teachers to train them in the Montessori. Can you tell us a little bit about the center that you've been running for several years also?
So I'm actually Montessori trained qualified teacher for the age group, and that's where I decided to start the teacher training center also, because it's quite rich in a culture, in education culture. That's what I prize it a lot, and that's where I decided about the training. We are based basically into Gigiri area. It's area in Nairobi. And we have a center with about 9 students right now as we are talking. And if we look at the kindergarten, then we have 5 classes with the age difference from 6 months to 6 years.
Now you are a qualified Montessori teacher. You have worked training teachers for years now as well. And now you're doing the teacher training course through Waterpark so that you are then a qualified Waterpark trainer. Which will then be building even more into your center. And we have some plans for the future to expand the center down in Nairobi also for the age groups as well, don't we?
Yeah, so remember, we have a Montessori school in Nairobi, a couple of them, they're all private based. So my plan is to expand this culture and education system in Nairobi and bring it to more for availability for everybody, not only the international families, or not only for the people who can afford. So my plan is to take that opportunity and learn from Waterpark Montessori, and then transfer to the community who are in a need, and I feel who is going to value this system, and then it can be also incorporated within the availability of surrounding. Yeah. So that's where I decided to be part of, also be training trainers. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the big things that Waterpark is really striving for, is to make this available for as many as possible. Because if you go back to the roots of the Montessori approach, it never was meant to be an elitist school. It was never meant to be just for the private, for the rich, but it's turned that way over the years. So now it's so important that we get back to the roots of it. And like you're saying, go out to the community. And Montessori materials, we're well known for all these materials, but anything can be a learning material. It doesn't have to be these wonderful, spectacular, huge classrooms full of expensive things. And I've seen some glimpses of your beautiful classroom environment, and you've made these wonderful materials, practical life skills, and all of these things that can be found and adapted to the culture that you're talking about. Wouldn't that be right?
Yes. This is where I wanted to really encourage also the community which are surrounding here, who are really needing education, because there is a gap in education. Remember, there is a book and pen and pencil, and then there is a Montessori system, right? I am being a parent, being a teacher, now becoming a tutor. I say that this is something I would like to introduce, and nothing can stop if you really want to study. So that's the culture which I want to bring, and bring more of confidence that if you want to study, there is always a way.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So we always are looking at the long lines, you know, understanding that you're not just studying 3 to 6, but that you understand what comes after and what comes before. So I think with the 0 to 3, the infant toddler, and then also then the 3 to 6, which really is the foundation. That's where Montessori did the most work and experimenting and observation. And then we'll have the 6 to 9, which is just starting up. And eventually the plans are also for the 9 to 12 as well. So we have the upper elementary. So there's a lot of plans in the future, and it's really exciting to have this developing as we speak, quite literally. So besides running the center, running the school and the training center, you've got a lot of really interesting projects going on, and they are going back to what we talked about of, getting back to the community, going and making the Montessori approach and method and principles available to the community. Can you tell us a couple of the projects that you're working on?
Right now, I'm working on a library setup in settlement area, and some of the area I have traveled is up countries, like almost about 8 hours drive. So these are the places where resources are not available, right? And we just talked earlier that Montessori method allows you to utilize the resources from surrounding you, and this is where my plan are heading as. So far about 40 libraries up and running. So my next plan is, which I've tried to already implement it in pandemic time. So about 2 libraries has taken a shape of virtual learning. So what happened basically in pandemic time, Kenyan schools were totally closed. Okay, so there was no school for children for 1 year. We started noticing the children are disappearing on the street for asking for food, or they're going into drugs, they're losing the interest in education, and maybe there's so much other things happens on the ground, right? So we decided, okay, we already have a library set up. Now, how we can utilize this library into the virtual learning for now until the pandemic gives us ease to go back to school. And we started having a 2 virtual library, and where what used to happen is we had to do a drive for gadgets for the computers or maybe tablets or smartphones, right? So I did the drive. I managed to collect about 60 tablets. So 3 different locations, I allocated 20, 20, 20. Now the second challenge was we had to look for the funds for the internet, because remember it's unsettlement area, right? So I had to go back to the people and ask them, look, this is already in a place, but we need now some kind of funds to pay for internet. And we managed to get these funds also. Now the third set was, in pandemic time, who goes and teach, right? So we actually had to broadcast out there on social media everywhere and say, we are looking for a teacher who really wants to volunteer in pandemic time. Remember, there was schools were totally closed, so teachers were also free and idle. What we did, there was a group of teachers came together, right? And we created a one room where we can broadcast all these lessons. So we had a timetable up for them, and then we had also all the subjects. So we make sure we do not disturb the system, which is Kenyan system education, right? We had to respect that. And then after having a timetable, we started broadcasting in 3 different locations these classes. So each library in that period was accommodating almost 60 students. So we have managed to at least pull through this in pandemic time. Now, the third stage where we had a little bit of more challenge, remember the priority for this area is education and food. So I had to collaborate with other organizations and say that, can you please bring cooked food for this area? So we can accommodate these children full-time in classroom. They don't have to go on the street and look for food. So this is where the library idea has taken all the different shape of education centers now. And as we are talking right now, there is a 5th library already I introduced today only with the virtual learning again. What's happening now, schools are back in a person, but now remember there is still lack of that computer knowledge and giving them different kind of platform to learn also. So the projects are now, it's taking bigger shape now, and that's where I want to introduce Montessori method also, because culture of coming child to library is already built. Now I want to make sure how I'm going to utilize this child when it's already in a library and doing doing this kind of a routine every day. So that's where I want to introduce the Montessori classroom setup. I understand I might not be able to do the full 100% classroom, but remember, there is always a start to accomplish something. So this is where my heart sits and say that if I wouldn't say they are slacking in this kind of availability, but I will say it's my duty to take it there, because as a person, as a Aruna, as an educator, what am I doing, right? So I always take as my responsibility to transfer it to or take it to them, right? Yeah. So that's where the library has taken a whole new concept in Nairobi, especially.
It really is no longer, it's no longer a library, is it? It really is
Yes.
a very significant resource now for so much more than just, book collections. Not that that
Yes.
wasn't valid in itself as a project, but to see how
Yeah.
the whole development, and it's going to be really interesting to see, can we get more sponsors? Can you get more people involved, more
Yes.
communities, and see how this spreads? It's such a valid and worthwhile, promoting, to get
Yeah.
the students in and
And remember, the education is the key. What you can give it to a person, and then yeah, that's the core. That's the value you can give it to a child.
that's
Instead of
exactly it.
having
And
a child remembrance of going on the street and looking for book and pen and paper, asking to car and ask for this kind of help. So
yeah.
yeah.
So the library project is not the only project you've been working on. There's another very important project. Would you like to tell us about that one that you've been working on now?
Yes, when I started doing the setup for library, I realized the second challenge girls especially have is availability of sanitary towels when they're in a menstrual cycle, right? So I decided to say, okay, there is one element is already in a place. We are providing the books, we are providing everything, but still something missing. So I decided to come up with the idea with the reusable sanitary towels, which are plastic free, eco-friendly, and also it's a solution for 2 years. If I give a kit to a girl, she is sorted out for at least 2 years, right? And this is what I implemented also and said, okay, whoever the girls are in the schools and who needs this towel, I will make sure that I make it this available for them. So the pad project is also a big project. So far, it's about 12,000 girls has benefited from this project. So can you believe the 12,000 for 2 years? They are safe and secure, and they are back in their education, like a education interest in school. Also, they are not missing
Right,
out the school.
because you were saying that during their cycle they weren't coming to school. Can you? Yeah.
Yeah, so they do come. There is a, if you see, look at the data what we collect in within Kenya, their suicide rates are really high because of insulting in a period shame in a in a school and all
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah.
I said, look, there is the interest for girl also who needs to really study, because I saw some of the girls, they just sit under the tree and they study. And I said, there is the only small gap which I need to cover up. And then again, that's where the idea was born, that how I can look for these funds and generate the job for also the ladies who are in a need, who also earn a bread and milk end of the day for their family.
Right.
So this it's a chain of support goes from making pads, looking for funds, and also giving to the beneficiary and they benefit also. So yeah, this is the main also key product which girls mostly miss out in Kenya.
Mm. And it's,
Or
I mean, it's
some areas I want to bring it also under this light in the lights, that some areas up country when I go, this is why I look for 2 years solution, because some area girl has to go for one night stand to
right.
get a one packet of pad. It's that's bad. And I said, once she's into this kind of field, then she will never go back to school. I said, what can I do as because myself I've been using this reusable pads and it's working for me. So it can work for anybody.
Mm.
Yeah. And also in some areas, if I get a room to teach the mothers how to make these pads also, I make sure I teach them. So at least when Aruna is not there, somebody else is making those
Exactly.
pads and looking after the surrounding community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is another key project which goes hand in hand with education, because it
Absolutely.
both lead to education
I mean,
in
it's
one way
something
or another way.
something, I mean, it's not small, but something this small can make such a high impact on the
Yeah.
welfare of the girls in general, in connection with the education, and just making quality of life that much better. And like you said, that having them available means that there are so many factors that it affects just by having those. So this is a really important project that I'm wishing you all the best as it continues. So we're going to be putting all of the links and all the information for these projects that Aruna's talked about. We're going to be putting below the video here, so that, check them out, join in and support it if you want to. Take contact Aruna if you want to be along in the project that's, or either of the projects in some capacity, or if you have, resources, whatever you'd like to contribute with. That would be fantastic, because this is obviously something that is definitely worthwhile continuing and finding if we to expand it, I think, as we're going along. Thanks so much for sharing everything with us today, Aruna, and well done on these projects. These are amazing. I wish you all the best as you continue expanding and keeping these projects going. I'm really excited. I'm very excited to come down and visit the center. We're hoping to do that next year, so that's